Best Irish music on irishradio.org with Jerry Byrne.
Irish Radio, I'm Jerry Byrne. Now, since the onset of COVID and everything else, I've been speaking to many of the great and the good and the talented. My next guest is all of those things and has had an incredible life, an incredible career, and has toured the world with her music and many, many other things also. I'm delighted to say hello to a lady I've played numerous times on the radio. She's had a very, very successful album released, and it's a lady called Kelly Lee, or the Reverend Kelly Lee. Reverend Lee, how are you?
I'm absolutely brilliant, Jerry. How are you doing today?
Not too bad at all, not too bad. Listen, tell me this, you were born in Dublin.
I was born in Dublin. My daddy was from Tipperary, and I think my mum was born, not sure, in County Wicklow.
Okay, now you grew up in humble times in Dublin.
Very humble times, Jerry, very, very.
Right, and how much of your life, how many years did you actually spend in Dublin?
I actually can't remember, because we moved down into the countryside, and I went to school in the countryside, but I was actually born in Dublin.
Right, okay. And would you say that you had a generally sort of a happy childhood?
Well, it was a very deprived childhood. But I suppose in a way it was happy because we didn't know any different. But compared to some other childhoods, it was hard, Jerry. It was tough.
Right.
But it was tough for everybody at that time, wasn't it?
Indeed. It was. There were a lot of people back in those days, grew up in very, very humble surroundings. Yes.
I used to feel very bad about it, and at one stage, I'm ashamed to say that I was very ashamed of it, but now looking back on it, it's shaped me into the person I am today.
Indeed.
It's given me the opportunity to be able to get along with people, look beyond the fault, and see the great need in people's lives today. So it was good in a way.
Yes. Something which, it does seem strange that people, and it is a thing which dogged many people, in that they were actually ashamed of the humble backgrounds they came from. And very sad, very, very sad itself. Now listen, you then went into music, and you toured, did a lot of work in the Middle East.
Yes, I did actually. Now at the time, just before I answer that question, when we were growing up, the thing that we loved most was that little bit of music, the singing and the dancing. So that helped us through. And going back, yes, I did. My first trip to the Middle East was to Bahrain. Then I went to Abu Dhabi. I went to Dubai and Sharjah and places around there, the Emirates. And then I went to Sri Lanka. That was, near India. Yeah, that was the start of it.
Right, and you used to play various, like for example, naval bases and places like that.
Yes, in Bahrain, I got an invitation down to the naval base, the AEU, I think it was called, because at night time the young sailors would come in when they were on leave. They would come in, and then we'd get invitations down to the base, and they just liked the old country music, and we went along and did it. Right.
You were working in doing cabaret and all the rest of it, and you were generally a busy lass.
Yes, I did. I grew up with country music and of course Irish traditional music, but I liked singing the old 60s stuff, cabaret stuff, a little bit of opera and gospel. So I was able to adapt to all the places, any place I went to. And I had the privilege, and I went to Sri Lanka for a 2-week tour, and I had a fabulous band where I was in the Hotel Oberoi Lanka. I was given the opportunity, it was Christmas time, I was given the opportunity to sing with a 35-piece symphony orchestra, so I sang a traditional song there. And then a couple of different bands while I was out there, I guested with them. So, yes, it was a good time.
Right, excellent stuff. Now, you were playing the guitar, but I believe that you had a shoulder injury which had happened many moons before, and that caused problems for your guitar playing.
That has finished the guitar playing at the moment. Yes, I was a kid when I had a RTA. It was a drunken driver. He hit my collarbone. Sorry, he hit my shoulder blade, which broke my collarbone, and I sustained a very serious head injury. And because of the seriousness of the head injury, they overlooked the collarbone damage and the shoulder damage. But I came out of the hospital, and I remember saying my shoulder hurts, but nobody wanted to know. So I got through life the best way I could, and it has caused me a lot of problems, but it never stopped me from doing anything. Never stopped me.
Well done. And, you had the determination to do it.
I had, well, because I was only a kid at the time, and I remember coming out of the hospital, and I said, my shoulder is hurting, and my mom just said, don't cause a fuss. And that was it. Nobody ever mentioned it after that. And then, unfortunately, years later, I was in a situation where a surgeon actually looked at it, and he said, I can do something with this. But really, Jerry, it was only an experiment. He didn't really know what he was doing at the time, so it caused the problems that I have now.
Right.
Okay. And but I just get through it.
Right.
You know.
Well done, well done. Now, another huge something that happened to you was you got carbon monoxide poisoning back in the 1990s.
Yes, I did. I was exposed to it around that era. I decided to open a couple of these Western fancy dress shops and the lot, and I was exposed to carbon monoxide low levels for 18 months.
Wow. Okay.
And that was very, very serious, because within 6 months, six minutes, you can die. But if it's low level, you're exposed to it, it can cause a lot of damage. So it did cause me a lot of damage. And eventually it was discovered, and the people responsible. As a matter of fact, just before the court case, you're going to think this is crazy, but I remember kneeling before Almighty God and saying, I don't want to blame anybody on anything if it's something that's happened to me, on my travels, because nobody would believe me. The hospitals wouldn't believe me, nothing like that. Because with carbon monoxide, if you take a blood test, you will find it in the blood. But if they don't take the blood test, they will treat you for everything, every neurological problem going. So anyway, I went before Almighty God and I said, now listen, I don't want to blame these engineers. And the case is coming up in 2 weeks' time. And I said, I'm going to ask you now to help here and reveal what's going on. And if it's a case, it's my fault, then I will just have to get on with it. Within a week before the court case, one of the engineers had a breakdown and confessed that they hadn't done the job properly. They hadn't, the flues were still blocked. So there you go.
Wow.
So I spent a lot of time over the years then lecturing, going around with people, and we campaigned to get carbon monoxide, these things you fit in buildings, and then we campaigned to get the, the gas safety test every year.
Yes.
So I kind of was part of that, but what a cost, what a cost.
Indeed. So,
and yeah, what a cost. And I remember what finally drove me to where I am today was my dog was killed because she had been exposed to it as well, and she wandered out in front of a bus. And I remember going back to one of my shops and saying, that's it. I remember putting my hand up, and I said, and I was alone in the shop at the time, and I remember putting my hand up and I'm saying, if you help me here, I will do what you want. If you help me to get through the side effects and the damage it's done to me, I will do what you want. I will be ordained as a minister, and I will serve you for the rest of my life. Jerry, I put my hand up, and I felt something grip my hand and pull me slightly up. I didn't look. I didn't see anybody, but I knew who it was. I knew what it was. So I sort of struggled to get, to recover, you name it. And then I was ordained as a minister.
Right. But you one interesting thing is, when you were 3 years of age, you actually told you told a priest that you wanted to be a priest.
Yes, I had a vision when I was 3 years old, and I came running downstairs and I shouted. Can I tell you what I shouted?
Yes.
I'm going to work for baby Jesus.
Right.
And I that didn't go down very well. And in the end, when they got the local priest in, he slapped me, and he said to my mom, he said she needs a good slapping. And I remember kicking him and saying, I will be a priest. I will be a priest.
Right.
So there you go.
Things were very different. Things were very different back in those dark days, indeed. And things were very different back in those dark days.
Of course, they were very different. And I felt sorry, to be perfectly honest with you. I felt really sorry for those boys and girls that were handed over and no choice to make that decision. Do you understand? Whereas I wanted to be like that. But yes, those were dark days, and but we came through them. And I think the old Irish wit helped.
Yes, it can be of good help. Now, you eventually in the whole road towards becoming ordained and all the rest of it. That was somewhat of a long road as well.
Yes, but the thing is, I had already studied all that. I had studied the Bible, so it wasn't all that hard, because I became a born-again Christian, in 1985, maybe. So I already had gone in and I was studying it. But the opportunity didn't come from me at the time. I think at the time God was calling me into the ministry, but I wanted to do my own thing. I wanted to sing. I wanted to travel. And I got the opportunity, but it was always in the background, Jerry. Always there. Always there. I never forgot it. It never left me. I always wanted to serve God.
Right. And you were finally ordained in Australia?
Yeah, yes, in Queensland, actually. And then I went back out. They wanted me to go with the Aborigines for a year, but I didn't feel that that's what God wanted me to do. So I persuaded them to let me come back here to Cheshire. And then I went back out again, and I did some chaplaincy with the Vietnam vets in one of their places for a little bit of time. And then I came back to England, and I'm still here.
Right. And your work involves quite literally on the streets.
I was the first ever street minister in England, the first ever in Cheshire, the first ever female. Yes. And what an education that was.
Indeed. And it's one I think kind of goes on with you daily, or you still do the streets.
Still a priest, yes. Yeah. First ever. And I went out and I served the Lord on the streets. And I'm still doing that, but in a different capacity now. If people are hungry, we see to it. If people need counseling, if people need help, just a friendly voice, friendly face. Just be there. Just be available for them. Don't judge anybody. I've had some escapades, let me tell you. I could tell you some stories, but that's for another interview, Jerry.
Okay, yes.
There's very little I haven't come across. I've seen it from the ground level up. I've seen the deprivation. I've seen everything. And I realize now that I had to... Well, it was an education.
Yeah.
An education.
Indeed.
So it's serving me very well now to be able to deal with all sorts of things. I counsel people. I laugh with people. Whatever. I sing for them. I sing with them. And the thing is, I didn't mention that when I was ordained as a minister of the gospel, I was told that I should not ever sing again. I shouldn't do anything like that. But that was wrong advice. That was advice that I took because I was a very inexperienced minister. And I realized that years ago that was a wrong thing to do because music is good for people. It's good for me.
Indeed. And you recorded your album, very, very successful album it was, and it spawned a huge success for you. I Watched the Sun Rise.
Yes. Yeah, I recorded it in France, and it was Terry Bradford, who was Charlie Lansbury's record producer. So I'm in that stable, Famous Records. I had the privilege of writing 3 of the songs, and Terry and Susie wrote one for me as well called Take Me For Who I Am. And I'm halfway through the other album at the moment, but due to COVID, things have stopped. But I've managed to get 7 of the songs down anyway, and they're sounding pretty good.
Excellent stuff. Excellent. COVID certainly has put a bit of a damper on many people trying to get recordings done and arrangements done, etc.
It has done a lot of damage in yes, but I think the worst damage it's done is the psychological damage to people. It's caused a lot of problems. I've come across a lot of teenagers who couldn't cope, so they started hitting the drugs, and that's the only way they could cope. I think a lot of wrongdoing. I think a lot of things should have been done. A lot of things weren't done. I think there's been a lot of confusion, and so there you go.
Indeed, it's been challenging for everybody.
Yes.
In its own way, in whichever way it has been. It certainly has tested the mental health of practically everybody, and unfortunately, it's affected the physical health of far too many people as well.
It has done, but I've been frontline since it happened, so I've been out there frontline in any capacity I could be. So regarding emotional, I wasn't sort of locked up all the time like lots of other people, so I could cope because I was out in the fresh air, if you understand what I mean.
Right. And you were out dealing with people. Did you ever feel, during this pandemic? I mean,
yes,
when it was at its worst. I mean, were you ever scared? I mean, did you ever think,
No.
I could easily get COVID?
Well, the way I look at it is, before I took the shots, the only reason I took the vaccinations is because I wanted to travel back to France to finish my album. But I prayed over my DNA. I prayed over my immune system. I'm very blessed. I have a very good immune system. And I thought, this is the time now, girl, to start looking after yourself and building your strength up. I came across a lot of people with underlying problems, Jerry. That's what really killed them, was the underlying problems. Because it's a respiratory virus. And if somebody's got a chest problem like bronchitis or COPD, of course it's going to attack the weakest area, isn't it? So it's caused havoc.
Indeed. It certainly has. And unfortunately, there were many people. It would appear from what you're saying is that there were many people who had various underlying conditions which they were not aware of whatsoever.
Well, being as it's a respiratory virus. If a lot of people have bronchitis, they have COPD, they can have underlying conditions, they can have that sickle cell anemia and not aware of it. And their immune system would be compromised because maybe due to the age, maybe the lifestyle. Now, I get a bit annoyed when people say, due to the age, because I've worked with people I'm changing the subject. When I used to travel over to Colorado, I was introduced to a gentleman. He was 101 years old. He was running a wholesale business, okay?
Wow.
And he was in better health than most people. In fact, he had a son, 75 years old, and he wasn't in the condition his dad was. I put it down to genetics.
Indeed,
genetics.
Indeed, it's something that it could be the only explanation for it.
Genetics. Yeah, and a lot of prayer, a lot of faith, a lot of trust. And I can honestly say to you, I've been out there full frontline, and I never caught a cold. I never caught a cold on those streets in the years I've been out there. I have, and I've been out from 12 o'clock at night till 6 in the morning.
Right.
Never caught a cold. Never caught a cold.
You're a tough cookie.
Well, this is where the old genetics come in, and of course, you know, being Irish, we had to get that tough exterior, didn't we?
Indeed so. So you're continuing on your work. You're trying to get your album finished, which hopefully you'll be able to get on within the next, the sort of foreseeable future when things get that little bit better, and you'll probably be releasing that at some stage next year.
Well, we were hoping for Christmas, but you know, I've had a lot of good advice from you in our conversations, but other people have said to me, why not bring some singles from it? Maybe I'll consider that. Who knows where we're going to be for Christmas? We could come out of lockdown in a week's time, and 3 months down the line, we could be back in lockdown. Who knows, Jerry? Indeed,
that's it. Listen, well done on everything that you've done. Well done on all your, on all the work, the work on the street, also the counselling work that you've done, and all the achievements. You've packed a heck of a lot into your life. No question, and you're still doing it.
Well, when you think of the little 3-year-old shouting, I'm going to work for baby Jesus. And you know something, many a true word may be spoken in ignorance or jest, but believe me, I got my wish. I wouldn't change it for the world. I love to sing, Jerry. I love singing with people. I love gospel concerts. I've been known to sing the old country and western songs as well and all that, but I wouldn't swap this job for anything.
Great to hear it.
I've found my place.
Great to hear it. It really is. And listen, well done on everything that you've done, and even in the tough times. Listen, I'm looking forward to receiving your new recorded material when it's finally released. Listen, it's been lovely to chat to you, and I wish you all the very, very best of success and good health and good luck for the future.
And I thank you so much for everything and all the encouragement you've given me. And I look forward to actually meeting up with you at some stage.